The Taliban's harsh rule in Afghanistan has taken another repressive turn, now forbidding women from even praying aloud in each other's presence. Labeling a woman's voice as awrah, the regime's minister for the propagation of virtue and prevention of vice has placed new limits on basic expressions of faith, including Quranic recitations. This decree is just the latest in a string of restrictions that severely erode women's rights in Afghanistan, drawing renewed global condemnation and calls for action to restore fundamental rights. A report. In Afghanistan, the Taliban regime has escalated its crackdown on women's freedoms, now banning them from playing aloud in each other's presence. Muhammad Khalid Hanafi, Taliban Minister for the Propagation of Virtue and Prevention of Vice, justified this oppressive restriction by calling a woman's voice awrah, something to be concealed from public life, even among women. This latest decree, reported by Afghan media, prohibits women from any form of audible expression, including reciting the Quran or enjoying music. Hanafi added that if women are forbidden from calling takbir or azan, the Islamic call to prayer, they should certainly avoid any form of singing or music.
طالبا فکر میکنن که نگهبانان بهشت هستن و هدایت دهنده به طرف بهشت، در حالی که خودشان غرق در گمراهی هستند و چشمها و قلبهایشان چنان در گمراهی کور شده که به هیچ کس رحم نمیکنن. زن افغانستان میتونه آواز بخونه، زن افغانستان میتونه درس بخونه، زن افغان میتونه که بیرون کار کنه. ابو علی سینه بلخی چیزی با بیان میکنه که ما به قوم مبتلا گشتیم که فکر میکنن که خداوند به جز خودشان هیچ کس را هدایت نکرده و دقیقاً همان قوم طالبان هستند.
Afghanistan has become the only country in the world where girls are barred from schooling beyond the 6th grade, marking an unprecedented reversal in women's rights and social freedoms. The Taliban's draconian measures go far beyond education. Women are denied most forms of employment, lack of protection from gender-based violence, and face severe barriers to healthcare access. Even simple measures like sports or visiting parks are now beyond reach.
I think it would be accurate to say that ever since the Taliban took over power, these years have seen a steady but inexorable marginalization of women in all fields, whether it is education, whether it is employment. If you remember, initially restrictions were put on education in view of the law and order situation. But once women were kept out, they were not allowed to come in at all. And what has happened is, slowly but surely, they have been kept out of all institutions of education. As for employment, it is clear that, they have this particular system. No women may be allowed to be, can be allowed outside unless she has a chaperone. Now, initially they allowed women to work with NGOs, etc. Now even that right has been taken away. So when it comes to employment, also what women have seen is their continuous and steady exclusion from any avenue of employment whatsoever, whether it is private or public.
Since reclaiming control in 2021, the Taliban's wave of restrictions has tightened. In August, they mandated full body coverings and face veils for women in public. Female healthcare workers, among the few allowed to work outside the home, face prohibitions on speaking in public or addressing male relatives, even regarding medical issues. Rights groups warn that this escalation will only further suffocate Afghan women. Earlier in September, Afghan women leaders took their plea for intervention to the United Nations. At a summit led by UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, these leaders highlighted the harrowing state of women's rights in Afghanistan, calling for urgent global action.
Without educated women, without women in employment, including in leadership roles, and without recognizing the rights and freedoms of one half of its population, Afghanistan will never take its rightful place on the global stage.
The Taliban's treatment of women is a systematic stripping of rights reminiscent of their brutal rule in the late 1990s, with recent decrees including the reintroduction of stoning for adultery. Most countries refuse to recognize the Taliban government, and the United Nations has made it clear that recognition is impossible as long as bans on female education and employment persist. Global condemnation remains steadfast, but the Taliban dismisses it as foreign interference, continuing their iron grip on Afghan women's lives.